What if I told you everything you've been told about manifesting your dreams is backwards? That staring at vision boards, repeating affirmations, none of it works unless you do this one thing first. And it's not what you think. You've probably heard this before. Think positive and the universe will deliver. But why do so many people try that and see nothing change? Tonight we're not just talking about manifestation. We're rewiring how it actually works. And it starts the moment you shut your eyes. The nighttime mind trick. Most people think of sleep as nothing more than a pause button, a blank space where nothing happens, just darkness until morning. But that's not how your mind works. The moment you close your eyes, your brain isn't just shutting off, it's working. Sorting, filing, most importantly, it's absorbing the last thoughts you feed it before you drift away. Think of it like this. If you spent the last 10 minutes before bed scrolling through stressful news, worrying about tomorrow, or replaying arguments in your head, what do you think your mind does with that? It doesn't just delete it, it takes it in, chews on it, and lets it settle deep into your subconscious. And then, you wake up feeling the residue of it, restless, heavy, like you're already behind before the day even starts. Now imagine this instead. What if, right before sleep, you fed your mind something different? Not forced positivity, not empty affirmations, but something real, something that actually shifts the way your brain processes the world. Because here's what most people don't realize. Your mind is most impressionable in those last moments before sleep. It's like a sponge soaking up whatever you give it. And if you give it chaos, it will mirror chaos back to you. But if you give it calm, if you give it focus, if you give it even the smallest dose of clarity, it starts to reorganize itself around that. This isn't just theory. Think about the last time you went to bed angry. How did you wake up? Probably still carrying that tension, right? Now think of a night where you fell asleep, feeling at peace. Maybe after a good conversation, or a moment of quiet reflection. The difference is obvious. Your mind doesn't just shut down when you sleep. It's still listening, still processing, and that's why what you do in those last minutes matters more than almost anything else. So, what can you actually do with this? It's not about forcing yourself to think happy thoughts. It's about gently guiding your mind toward what serves you. One simple way is this. Instead of letting your thoughts race, take just 2 or 3 minutes before sleep to focus on your breathing, not to clear your mind, that's nearly impossible, but to slow it down. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly, and as you do, imagine your thoughts settling like sand in water. You're not trying to stop thinking. You're just letting the thoughts land where they need to. Another way is to plant a single question in your mind before sleep. Not a demand, not a desperate wish, but a simple, open-ended question. Something like, what's one thing I might have missed today that could help me? Or how could tomorrow surprise me in a good way? Don't force an answer, just let the question sit there. Your mind will work on it while you sleep, and you'd be amazed how often the answer shows up the next day. Not in a lightning bolt moment, but in a quiet realization, a chance encounter, or a sudden shift in perspective. The key here is subtlety. You're not trying to control your mind. You're gently nudging it in a direction, and over time, this small shift, what you focus on right before sleep, starts to rewire how you think, how you feel, and what you notice when you're awake. Because your mind never really stops working, it just changes, shifts. And if you learn how to work with that, instead of against it, everything changes. Why affirmations fail, and what to do instead. You've probably heard it 1,000 times. Say your affirmations daily, and your life will change. So you stand in front of the mirror, repeating, I am successful, I am wealthy, I am confident. But deep down, if you're honest, it feels fake, like you're lying to yourself. And the more you say it, the louder that voice in your head argues back. Really? Then why is my bank account empty? Why do I still feel stuck? That's the problem with most affirmations. They don't work when they clash with what you actually believe. Your brain isn't stupid. It knows when you're feeding it something that doesn't match your reality. And when that happens, it doesn't just accept the new idea, it fights back. Because the brain's job isn't to blindly accept whatever you tell it. Its job is to keep you safe, to maintain what it knows to be true, even if that truth is painful. So when you say, I am wealthy, but your daily experience is stress about money, your brain doesn't go, oh great, let's update everything. It goes, hold on, that doesn't add up. And the more you push, the more resistance you create. So what's the alternative? How do you actually shift your mindset without triggering that internal resistance? The answer isn't to force a new belief. It's to open a door, just a crack for your mind to walk through on its own. Instead of declaring, I am wealthy, try something like, I am open to opportunities I haven't seen yet. Feel the difference. One is a statement that demands your brain to agree with something it doesn't yet believe. The other is an invitation, a subtle shift that doesn't argue with your current reality, but leaves room for something new. This works because it bypasses the brain's defense mechanisms. You're not telling it to delete what it knows. You're just suggesting that there might be more. And when you do that, your mind starts scanning for proof, not to fight you, but out of curiosity. Okay, where are these opportunities? What have I missed? And once it starts looking, it finds things, a conversation you wouldn't have noticed before, an idea that seemed irrelevant yesterday, a small chance you'd normally overlook. That's how real change begins, not with a sledgehammer of forced positivity, but with a quiet nudge that lets your mind discover its own evidence. Another way to approach this is to focus on progress, not perfection. Instead of saying, I am perfectly confident, try, I am getting better at this. Instead of, I never get stressed, try, I'm learning how to handle stress. These statements don't trigger resistance because they don't claim anything unrealistic. They acknowledge where you are while pointing toward growth. And that's something your brain can accept without fighting back. The biggest mistake people make with affirmations is treating them like magic spells, as if saying the right words will instantly rewrite reality. But your mind doesn't work that way. Real change happens when you work with your brain, not against it. When you give it room to question, to explore, to discover new truths on its own. So if affirmations haven't worked for you, it's not because you're doing it wrong. It's because you've been sold a version of them that ignores how the mind actually works. The real power isn't in repeating what you wish were true. It's in gently guiding your mind toward what could be true, one small believable step at a time. The 90-second rule. There's a moment right when anxiety hits, where it feels like it's going to last forever. Your heart races, your thoughts spiral, and it's as if the world is closing in. But if you've ever paid close attention, you'll notice something strange. No matter how intense that feeling is, after about 90 seconds, it starts to fade. Not because you fixed anything, not because you figured it out, but because emotions, at their core, are just chemical reactions. They surge, they peak, and then if you don't feed them, they dissolve on their own. This is the 90-second rule. It's the natural lifespan of an emotion in your body. The problem isn't the emotion itself, it's that most people don't let it run its course. Instead, they react. They panic about the panic. They get angry about the anger. They start telling themselves stories about why they shouldn't feel this way, or what it means about them, or how it's never going to get better. And in doing that, they take what was supposed to be a passing wave and turn it into a storm that lasts for hours, days, even years. Now, imagine applying this to something deeper: old triggers, past hurts, memories that still sting when you think about them. Most people avoid those memories altogether, or they get lost in them, reliving the pain over and over. But there's another way. Instead of running from the memory or drowning in it, you can learn to rewrite it, not by denying what happened, but by changing how it lives inside you. Here's how it works. Before you sleep, when your mind is relaxed but still aware, pick one of those old moments, the kind that still makes your chest tighten when you think about it. Play it in your mind like a scene from a movie, but pause it right before the worst part happens, right before the hurt, the embarrassment, the regret. Now, ask yourself, what if this had gone differently? Not in a fantasy way, not by pretending everything was perfect, but by imagining a version where you handled it with just a little more strength, a little more clarity. Maybe you stood up for yourself. Maybe you walked away instead of engaging. Maybe you simply understood then what you know now. The point isn't to erase the past. It's to remind your brain that the past isn't fixed, that it's not a locked door but a story that can be edited. And when you do this, when you replay a memory but change the ending, even slightly, something shifts in your nervous system. The old trigger starts to lose its power, because now, when your mind reaches for that memory, it doesn't just find the pain, it finds the possibility, it finds the version where you had agency. Do this enough times, and the grip of those old emotions weakens, not because you've convinced yourself that the past was perfect, but because you've shown your brain that the past isn't the only reference point, that there are other ways the story could have gone, and if it could have gone differently then maybe, just maybe, things can go differently now. This isn't about positive thinking, it's about flexibility. The most resilient people aren't the ones who never feel pain. They're the ones who know that pain isn't permanent, that emotions, no matter how strong, have a lifespan, and that memories, no matter how old, can be reshaped. So tonight before you sleep, try it. Pick one moment, pause it, rewrite it, not to change what happened, but to change how it lives in you. The wrong door problem. When you want something really wanted, your mind does something strange. It tries to define it, to put it in a box. If it's love, you imagine a specific person. If it's money, you fixate on a number. If it's success, you picture a particular job, a certain lifestyle, and on the surface that makes sense. How else would you know what you're asking for? But here's the problem. When you get too specific, you accidentally lock yourself out of everything else. Think of it like ordering a mystery box. You're excited, you're anticipating something great, but then you tell the seller it has to contain shoes, size 9, black, leather. Now, instead of a mystery box, you've turned it into a very specific request. And if the universe or life or whatever you want to call it doesn't have that exact pair of shoes ready for you, what happens? You get nothing. Or worse, you get something close, but because it's not exactly what you pictured, you dismiss it. This is the wrong door problem. You're so focused on one particular door, one particular way your desire has to manifest, that you don't notice all the other doors opening around you. You want love, but you're waiting for one person to change, or to come back, or to finally see you the way you want to be seen. Meanwhile, there are other people, other connections, other forms of love that could fulfill you in ways you haven't even imagined, but you don't see them because they don't match the picture in your head. The solution isn't to stop wanting, it's to want differently. Instead of fixating on the form, the person, the number, the job, focus on the feeling. What is it that you actually want from love, safety, excitement, understanding? What is it that money really represents to you? Freedom, security, peace. When you strip away the specifics and get to the core feeling, something shifts. Now, instead of demanding one exact path, you're open to all the possible paths that could lead you there. This is what it means to hand the universe a blank check. You're not writing the amount, you're not specifying the currency. You're just signing your name and saying, I trust you to fill this in. And when you do that, you start noticing opportunities you would have missed before. Maybe the love you've been waiting for doesn't come from a romantic partner, but from a deeper friendship. Maybe the money doesn't come from the raise you've been chasing, but from an unexpected opportunity you'd never considered. The how isn't your job. Your job is to know what you want at the feeling level, and then to stay open to the countless ways it might arrive. Because the truth is, life rarely gives us exactly what we ask for, but it often gives us what we need. The key is to recognize it when it comes. The silent 2 a.m. edit. There's a space between sleep and waking, where the usual rules don't apply. Your thoughts move differently here. The sharp edges of logic soften. The constant inner commentary quiets down. And in that quiet, something interesting happens. Your mind begins editing reality without your conscious input. This is the silent 2 a.m. edit. It's not about forcing yourself to think positive. It's about noticing how your brain naturally reshapes experiences when you're not micromanaging it. Most people waste this time. They either crash into sleep exhausted or lie there replaying the day's problems. But there's another way to use these moments. Not to solve anything, not to force anything, but to plant a seed. Here's how it works. Instead of letting your mind spiral into worries or to-do lists, try this simple game. Ask yourself, what if tomorrow went perfectly? Not in a detailed step-by-step way, not with unrealistic expectations, just as a gentle exploration. The key is to avoid scripting it. Don't picture specific outcomes or rigid scenarios. That's just your logical mind trying to take control again. Instead, let the images come on their own. Maybe you see yourself moving through the day with ease. Maybe you catch a glimpse of a conversation going well, or a task feeling lighter than expected. Don't force the details, just wander through the feeling of it. The absence of resistance, the quiet sense of things unfolding without struggle. This works because your subconscious doesn't operate in specifics. It operates in impressions. When you give it a feeling, a tone, a general direction, it starts aligning your perceptions to match. And when you wake up, something subtle shifts. You're not suddenly immune to problems, but you might notice opportunities you'd otherwise overlook. A solution presents itself without force. A person says exactly what you needed to hear. A coincidence tilts in your favor. This isn't magic. It's the natural result of priming your mind to look for what works instead of what's broken. Most people go through life with their mental filters set to scan for threats, for obstacles, for everything that could go wrong. And because of that, they find exactly what they're looking for. But when you spend even a few minutes at night in that soft, half-awake state, imagining things going right, your filters start adjusting. You begin noticing the paths that were always there but previously invisible. The silent 2 a.m. edit isn't about controlling tomorrow. It's about loosening your grip on how it has to happen. It's about giving your mind permission to find its own way to the feeling you're after. And the more you practice this, the more you'll notice something interesting. The days begin to bend just slightly toward the version you explored in those quiet moments. Not perfectly, not always, obviously, but enough that you start trusting the process, enough that you realize your mind was always capable of this. You just had to stop overruling it long enough to let it work. The already happened hack. Gratitude is often misunderstood. People treat it like a checklist. I'm grateful for my health, my family, my home, as if repeating it enough will make them feel something. But real gratitude isn't about listing what you have. It's about shifting how you perceive reality itself. And the most powerful way to do that isn't by being thankful for what's already here. It's by being thankful for what's on its way, as if it's already happened. Here's why this works. Your brain doesn't handle hypotheticals well. When you say, I hope this works out, your mind registers it as uncertainty. It stays in a state of searching, of lack. But when you say, thank you for the unexpected help that's coming, something different happens. Your brain treats it as a fact, not as a wish, but as something already in motion. And once that shift occurs, your mind starts looking for evidence to confirm it. This is the already happened hack. You're not lying to yourself. You're not pretending everything is perfect. You're simply choosing to acknowledge the possibility of good things before they fully materialize. And when you do that consistently, your perception of reality begins to change. You start noticing small signs. A stranger's kindness at the right moment, an idea that pops up out of nowhere, a sudden shift in circumstances that opens a door you didn't see before. Most people wait for proof before they believe. They need to see the result before they feel the gratitude. But that's backwards. The gratitude comes first. The feeling of this is already working out comes first. And from that place, the proof starts appearing. Not because the universe is rewarding your positivity, but because you've stopped filtering out all the ways it was already trying to show up for you. Try this tonight. Instead of hoping for something, thank the invisible forces, whether you call it the universe, luck, or your own subconscious, for what's already coming. Don't specify how. Don't demand a timeline. Just say, thank you for the unexpected help, and let it go. Then watch what happens over the next few days. You'll start seeing coincidences that aren't really coincidences. You'll notice solutions that were there all along, not because they weren't there before, but because you're finally looking with eyes that expect to find them. The already happened hack isn't about forcing yourself to feel something fake. It's about recognizing that the future isn't as distant as it seems, that the things you want are already in motion, and your gratitude is simply the act of acknowledging them before they cross the finish line. When you live this way, you stop chasing, you start receiving, and the difference between those two states changes everything. The 10-second cleanse. The modern world runs on tension. We carry it in our shoulders from hours at desks, in our jaws from conversations left unfinished, in our stomachs from worries we can't seem to digest. Most people don't even realize they're doing it, this constant low-grade clenching against life. Then they wonder why their affirmations don't work, why their visualizations feel flat, why they can't seem to manifest what they want. Here's the truth: no one tells you. You can't plant new seeds in concrete, and that's what your body becomes when it's locked in stress: hard, unyielding, resistant to change. This is where the 10-second cleanse comes in, not as another item on your endless to-do list, but as a momentary pause between the day's chaos and sleep's surrender. Here's how it works. As you lie in bed, take just 10 seconds to scan your body from head to toe. Don't judge what you find. Don't try to fix anything. Just notice. Is there tension in your forehead, your neck, your hands, wherever you find it? Imagine breathing directly into that space. Picture your breath like warm water melting ice, not forcing it to change, just creating conditions where change becomes inevitable. What you're doing here isn't spiritual, it's biological. When you're stressed, your nervous system sends emergency signals to every cell in your body. These signals scream so loudly that they drown out everything else: your intuition, your creativity, your ability to recognize opportunities. By releasing physical tension, you're not just relaxing muscles, you're switching your entire system from danger mode to safe mode. And when your body feels safe, your mind stops scanning for threats and starts noticing possibilities instead. Think of it like closing background apps on your phone. So you might not realize how many you have running until you shut them down, and suddenly everything works faster, smoother. Your mind works the same way. All those unresolved tensions from the day are like apps, draining your energy, slowing your system, making it harder for new downloads, or in this case, new realities, to come through. The 10-second cleanse is your force quit command. But here's what makes this different from typical relaxation techniques. It's not about achieving some perfect state of calm. It's about the act of noticing itself. When you pause to scan your body, you're doing something revolutionary. You're stepping out of the stream of constant thinking and into pure awareness. In that space, even if just for seconds, something magical happens. The thoughts that seemed so urgent lose their grip. The problems that felt overwhelming shrink to manageable size, not because they've changed, but because you've changed your relationship to them. This practice works cumulatively. The first night you might barely notice a difference. The 10th night you'll start catching tensions earlier in the day. The 100th night, you'll realize your default state has shifted, that you're no longer waiting until bedtime to check in with yourself. And as that happens, everything else changes too. Manifestation becomes easier because you're no longer working against your own physiology. Clarity comes faster because your system isn't bogged down by unnecessary alarms. Peace isn't something you have to chase. It's what's left when you stop running from yourself. The beauty of this practice is its simplicity. You don't need special equipment or perfect conditions. You don't even need to be good at relaxing. All you need is 10 seconds, the space between one breath and the next, to remind your body that the war is over, that it's safe to stand down. And when your body believes that, your mind can finally hear the whispers of possibility it's been missing all along. The no-effort test. We've been sold a lie about manifestation, that it requires Herculean effort, perfect visualization, unwavering faith, that if you're not seeing results, you must not be trying hard enough. But here's the secret they don't tell you. Real magic happens in the opposite direction, not in pushing, but in allowing, not in creating force, but in removing resistance. The no-effort test proves this in the simplest way possible. by showing you how much is already coming to you that you've been too busy striving to notice. Try this experiment tomorrow. Go through your day looking for just one tiny thing that aligns with what you want to manifest. Not the big signs, not the dramatic confirmations, just small, easy to miss nods from the universe. A parking spot opening up just as you arrive. A song playing that answers a question you've been pondering. A stranger's smile that lifts your mood exactly when you needed it. These aren't coincidences. They're the universe's way of whispering, I'm here, I'm listening, more is coming. The key is to write it down at night, not analyze it, not make it mean anything grand. Just record it like a scientist collecting data. 3:15 p.m. Found a dime heads up in the parking lot. 7:30 p.m. Got exactly the window table I wanted at the cafe. These might seem insignificant, but here's what's really happening. Each time you notice and record these small alignments, you're training your brain to recognize a pattern. You're essentially telling your subconscious, this is what we're collecting now. And like a good assistant, your subconscious will start bringing you more of what you're paying attention to. This works because of how our perception is wired. The brain is a filter, not a camera. It shows you what you've told it is important. Most people have their filters set to notice problems, obstacles, everything that's wrong. When you do the no-effort test, you're reprogramming those filters to scan for evidence that things are working. And once your brain knows that's the assignment, it will find more and more proof to support that belief. Not because reality has changed, but because your focus has. What makes this different from forced positivity is that you're not pretending everything is perfect. You're simply shifting your attention slightly from what's missing to what's present, from what's not working to what is. Even in small ways, this slight shift, practiced consistently, creates a compound effect. The more you notice alignments, the more you expect them. The more you expect them, the more they show up. And the more they show up, the more natural it feels to receive, which is when manifestation becomes effortless. The no-effort test reveals a profound truth. The universe is always responding. The reason most people don't see it is because they're too busy looking for responses in one specific form. They want their manifestation to arrive in a particular package, at a particular time, in a particular way. When you do this test, you realize the universe is much more creative than that. It's sending messages constantly, through countless channels. Your job isn't to control how the message arrives. Your job is simply to notice when it does. After a week of this practice, you'll start seeing patterns. Maybe certain types of alignments happen more often at particular times of day. Maybe they cluster around certain activities. These aren't random. They're clues about your unique connection to the flow of the universe. Follow these clues, and you'll find your manifestations coming faster, easier, and often in better forms than you could have planned. The ultimate lesson of the no-effort test is this: you don't have to make things happen. You just have to stop preventing them from happening. When you stop straining, stop over-controlling, stop demanding that life show up in exact ways, you create space for it to surprise you. And life loves nothing more than to surprise those who are paying attention. The 3-second switch, the mind before sleep, is a strange landscape. It's when the gates between conscious and subconscious start to blur, when thoughts that normally stay hidden come creeping out from their hiding places. And for most people, these aren't pleasant thoughts. They're the worries you've been avoiding all day, the regrets that wait until you're vulnerable to pounce, the endless to-do lists that suddenly feel urgent at midnight. The common advice is to fight these thoughts, to replace them with positive affirmations, to force yourself to think happy thoughts, But this misses something fundamental about how the mind works. You can't stop a thought by resisting it. What you resist persists. What you fight grows stronger. The 3-second switch takes a different approach. When a negative thought arises in that vulnerable pre-sleep space, you don't battle it. You don't shame yourself for having it. You simply acknowledge its presence. Ah, there's that worry about money again. And then, without making it a big production, you switch to any other thought that feels slightly better. Not necessarily positive, not necessarily uplifting, just different. I like how soft this pillow is. The blanket feels warm. I can hear the quiet of the night. This works because of how attention functions in the mind. Your focus is like a spotlight. Where it goes, energy flows. When you try to push a thought away, you're actually shining that spotlight directly on it, giving it more power. But when you gently redirect your attention to something neutral, you're not feeding the negative thought any longer. You're not trying to replace darkness with blinding light. You're just stepping out of the darkness into whatever space is available. There's neuroscience behind this too. Negative thoughts trigger the amygdala, putting your brain into threat mode. When that happens, your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for rational thinking, literally gets less blood flow. This is why you can't think your way out of anxiety in the moment. The 3-second switch bypasses this by not engaging in a mental argument at all. You're not trying to convince yourself the negative thought isn't true. You're simply changing the channel before the thought can pull you into its drama. What makes this especially powerful before sleep is that your mind is in a particularly impressionable state. The thoughts you entertain in those last waking moments tend to linger, coloring your subconscious processing throughout the night. When you practice the 3-second switch regularly, you're training your mind to disengage from negative spirals automatically. Over time, you'll notice the negative thoughts come less frequently, and when they do come, they'll have less grip on you. This isn't about becoming perpetually positive. That's neither possible nor desirable. Negative thoughts serve a purpose. They alert us to real problems that need addressing. The goal here is simply to prevent those thoughts from hijacking your precious pre-sleep moments, when your mind should be winding down, not revving up. It's about maintaining sovereignty over your own attention, especially during those vulnerable transitions between waking and sleeping. The beauty of this practice is its simplicity. You don't need any special skills. You don't need to believe in anything. You just notice where your mind is, and if it's somewhere unhelpful, you guide it gently elsewhere, not forcefully, not judgmentally, just matter-of-factly, like steering a canoe away from rough waters toward calmer ones. Do this consistently, and you'll find yourself falling asleep easier, sleeping more deeply, and waking up with less of that mental residue that comes from a night spent wrestling with your thoughts. The let me surprise you close. There's a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from trying to manifest your desires through sheer force of will. The visualization marathons, the affirmation repetitions, the constant checking for signs that something is working. It's all fundamentally rooted in lack, in the idea that what you want isn't here yet, and you have to struggle to bring it about. This approach doesn't just tire you out, it actually works against the very thing you're trying to achieve, because it keeps you vibrationally anchored in the experience of not having what you want. The let me surprise you close offers a radical alternative. Instead of going to sleep with a list of demands for the universe, you end your day with a simple invitation. Show me what you've got. Not as a challenge, but as an open-handed gesture of trust. You're not specifying what should come or how it should arrive. You're simply declaring your readiness to receive and your curiosity about how that receiving might unfold. This shift from demanding to allowing changes everything. Think about the difference between shaking a vending machine to get your snack to drop versus planting a seed and waiting for it to grow. One approach is frantic, forceful, rooted in impatience and control. The other is patient, trusting, rooted in the understanding that some processes can't be rushed, but will yield far greater rewards if allowed to unfold naturally. When you shake the vending machine, you might get what you want in that moment, but the experience is stressful and the results are limited to what's already inside the machine. When you plant a seed, you open yourself to possibilities far beyond what you could have imagined. Fruits you didn't plant, flowers you didn't expect, shade you didn't know you needed. The "let me surprise you" approach works because it aligns you with the fundamental nature of how the universe operates, through expansion, through creativity, through solutions more elegant than our limited human minds could devise. When we fixate on specific outcomes, we blind ourselves to these better possibilities. When we open ourselves to surprise, we become available to receive them. Try this tonight as you're lying in bed. Take a few deep breaths and release any agenda you've been carrying about how your life should unfold. Then, either out loud or in your mind, say, "Show me what you've got," with a sense of genuine curiosity, not as a test, but as an invitation. Then, let go completely. Don't try to imagine what might come. Don't try to control how it might look. Just rest in the knowing that your request has been heard and that the response is already on its way. In the morning, pay attention to anything that feels like a nudge, an unexpected idea, a chance encounter, a sudden insight. These are the first sprouts from the seed you planted the night before. Don't judge them by their size or apparent significance. Just notice them, appreciate them, and continue the practice night after night. What you'll find over time is that life begins to respond to you in ways that feel almost eerily perfect, not because you controlled the process, but precisely because you didn't. You made space for something smarter than your conscious mind to operate. You allowed the universe to surprise you with its ingenuity. And in doing so, you discovered that what you truly wanted wasn't the specific thing you'd been fixated on, but the feeling that thing represented, a feeling that can come through infinite doorways. When we stop insisting on just one, manifestation isn't about controlling every detail. It's about setting the thermostat of your mind so reality adjusts to match. Tonight, don't chase, don't demand, just hit play on this audio and let your brain do the rest.